G'day guys, Marcus here from Get Car Tech. Today in the workshop we've got a 2016 8th generation Hilux, or the N80 as they're known in Australia. This is one of our favourite cars to work on here at Get Car Tech. It's a really simple job and the end result is absolutely flawless. It's going to be about a 45-minute job today, and we truly believe that anyone can install this system in the N80 Hilux. Let's get into it. All right, so let's get this stock radio out. Now, there's a few pieces of trim we're going to remove. We're going to be removing this piece of plastic around the gauge cluster, this silver piece here, this secondary glove box as well, and this AC panel. And that sounds intimidating, but I promise you this is about a 5-minute process. It all comes out very easily, and Toyotas are a dream to work on. Now, for the gauge cluster, there are two Phillips head screw clips, which are strange. You do see them sometimes, but basically we need a short stubby Phillips head screwdriver, which I don't have. So what I've done is I've put this together so we have enough access to get in and under with these funny clips here. So the way that these work is you basically unscrew them like a Phillips head. It's going to be really hard to show on camera, but we'll try our best here. Basically, put a Phillips head up there and then rotate left really lightly, and the head of that clip should start to come down. We can see that's happening here. We can use this end of our trim tool to pull it out. Might be a little difficult to get the angle here, but once that Phillips head is popping out, you just pull it and that's going to remove that clip, and we can show you a better shot here. It's a plastic Phillips head screw clip, and the trick to getting these out first go is unscrewing them very lightly. Now, we can use our trim tool to start to free up this gauge cluster piece. That's the only two plugs holding it in, and we can use our fingers here, or we can use our trim tool, but basically, if you sneak it under the lip here, we'll be able to pull that gauge cluster off, and you can pull it all the way off if you like, but you can also just sort of leave it hanging there a bit. All we're trying to do is clear it from these little tabs here that keep the next pieces of trim in. So this is the first piece that needs to come out. Now we can move on to this silver piece here. But this silver piece here, this is a big long piece with many clips on it. So we're going to start from one end and we'll jump over the other side of the car to finish it off on the other side. Now our climate control, if we move our gauge cluster piece out of the way properly, we can just pull. I've got my finger on the right side of this piece of trim. We can just pull this one out. And there's going to be some cables connected to the back of this one. We're not going to disconnect those. We're just going to leave this piece hanging here because that's a lot easier than fully disconnecting it. All right, last piece to come out is this top glove box here. Now this thing will just come out just by pulling forwards. So we'll start on the left side. We'll just release the first few of those clips, and this whole thing will come out as an independent unit. All right, so that's all the trim pieces we need to remove. That's going to expose 4 10mm bolts that are also Phillips head, that also have Phillips heads on them. One at the top left here, one to the top right, one in the bottom left, one in the bottom right. Now, I'm going to use this tool here. This is an impact driver with an extension bit and a 10mm hex bit on the end. And because these top ones are recessed here, they do have a habit of dropping down. So we've also got a little magnet stick here that we're going to use to catch the bolts and not lose it. There we go. Cool. So the first cable we're going to disconnect is the rear seatbelt light indicator piece. This is the tightest cable, so that's going to prevent your radio from coming out further. Now, on the back here, we've got heaps of connectors. I like to use a flathead screwdriver for this part of the process. Some of these connectors are really easy to dislodge with a flathead as opposed to your fingers. So pro tip, have a flathead on standby, and we're going to disconnect every single one of these clips here. Last one is our factory USB port, and there we have it. That's the radio fully out. We're going to move on to transferring these clips over to our new system so that the new one fits like factory, and we're almost there. Alrighty, so there's a few pieces that we're going to borrow from our stock radio and transfer over to our new system. First of which is our rear seatbelt indicator light, and then we can transfer this over directly to our new frame, just lining up those clips and clicking it in. Now we can start to remove our yellow clips. So the way that these clips work is they're kind of like a peg, and if we split the legs open, we'll disengage the clip and we can pull them off. There are two white clips that come with the stock system up here. I usually don't bother with these ones. They don't really hold the radio in much at all. So just worry about the yellow clips, and then when we're done taking all these off, we'll transfer them over. All right, we've all 7 of our yellow clips off here, and we're gonna just put those on the same parts of the frame that they came off of. So just working around. You just wanna push these on until they click. You shouldn't be able to pull any of them off. If they're engaged correctly, they'll be snug on the new frame. And again, we're going to ignore the top 2 ones because they're really not that important. So that's our new system fully built. Now the only thing we really need to do is install this external microphone and then run the cable up to the back of the existing radio, and then we're good to go. Alrighty, so our external microphone, just take this out of the bag, give the cable a stretch out, make sure there's no knots or kinks in it. And what we're going to do here is we're going to mount it where the roof lining meets the A-pillar here. So this little clip will fit nicely into this section here. And then we're going to run the cable down, the weatherproofing, until we hit the footwell, and then we're going to pull the cable up and across. We're also going to be using a high quality torch. We're going to be using this to illuminate that void space under the steering wheel, and that's going to give us a nice clear path to poke our cable pulling tool through. So like this, and you just push the roof lining a bit to get it out the way, and then use the tab of the microphone to push that cable in. And then if you've done that correctly, you'll have plenty of cable slack to articulate the microphone where you want it to be. Now, using our trim tool, we can push this cable in the lining, and we want to get it over the corner here. And once we have, we just work it down the weatherproof lining here. Okay, so over here, we're just going to continue that cable run, just using our trim tool to lodge it nicely in the weatherproofing. And once we get it past this point, it's kind of just as simple as pushing it in. There's a heap of void space in these Hiluxes to work with. And all you're doing is just pushing it behind the weatherproofing until that cable is completely hidden. And then we can place our torch up in near the pedals here, and we can shine that torch upwards, and then we move over to the other side of the car. We'll see that the void space behind the radio is lit up, and we'll have a really clear path to poke our cable pulling tool through. All right, so I've just tied the microphone cable to our pulling tool with a really simple knot. You shouldn't have to tie anything too serious because we don't expect much resistance at all. We might need to work it on the other side to get it to come all the way. There we go. So there's our microphone cable. We can untie it from our cable pulling tool, and then we're going to want to pull all the slack of this cable through. We don't want any slack down in the driver's side footwell, and we want to make sure to be very careful that the cable does not loop behind any of the pedals for obvious reasons. So sort of grab your cable, make sure it's clear of any obstructions, and then pull it all the way through and up. And then you'll feel down below here, it's out of the way of any obstructions and it's completely hidden, which is brilliant. Now, there'll be a heap of slack on the end of this cable. All we do to deal with that is we just loop the cable back on itself like this. And we just want a little bit of slack so we can get the cable plugged in nicely. But we don't want too much that we risk the cable coming or going where it shouldn't later on. All right, so let's get this thing in. First thing we're going to connect is our microphone cable. So if we grab this 3.5mm jack here, we want to plug that into our microphone input and we want to hear it click. It'll go all the way in until it clicks. Nice. So let's start to move on to some of our main connections. So we'll grab the stock cable harness. Some of them may have gone missing. Just want to put your hand down here and fish them out. So we'll start with these ones. So each one of these cables is keyed, which means that you can't plug the wrong one into the wrong hole. So just basically work through them, match them up as you go. Some of them will be obvious to which ones match which. Others will be less clear. But again, you really can't get this step wrong. If a cable fits in a hole, just put it in. Make sure not to force it in. That's a good sign that it's not the correct one. And then we've also got our USB retention cable. This one's a little tougher to push in. We want to make sure we line up the connector like this so that the tab on the top lines up with the hole on the new connector. Want to push that in until it clicks as well. So that's pretty much it. The last thing we will want to remember to connect is our rear seat indicator light. Again, this is a really short cable, so we're only going to be able to connect this once we get this screen closer to its final position. So we'll lift this one up and give ourselves enough slack to push that in. We push our rear seatbelt indicator light in until it clicks. And now we can sort of place the screen in its final position. Now we are going to click the screen into place here. If you want, you can start to test at this point here before you click it in. But if we line up all the clips, you should be able to visually sight that everything's aligned. We can push this one in. 1, 2, 3. Nice. Now the unit will take a couple of seconds to reboot. We can see immediately that beautiful Toyota logo on startup. These are the kind of differences that we get on our Get CarTech units. You won't find branded boot logos anywhere else. All right, so with that done, we can be pretty confident that everything's working as it should. We got sound out of the speakers. Our steering wheel controls are working after we changed our CAN setting. So everything's working as it should. Before we do the CarPlay reveal, we'll just put everything back together so it looks nice and beautiful. All right, so to put everything back together, we're basically going to do exactly what we did before, but in reverse order. Great. I'm going to peel back this protective cover here, and we're going to connect to wireless CarPlay. Let's boot this thing up again and finish up our testing. That beautiful Toyota logo looks great. As soon as we pull off that protective cover on the screen, it's going to be much more responsive. Now, once the unit's finished booting, we can test out a few other functions, first of which is the reverse camera. So we can see that's working perfectly. We also have some picture adjustment settings. When you're in reverse, if you touch the screen, you can change things like brightness and saturation, but usually default is the best option. Now let's put that back into park and connect to wireless CarPlay. Alrighty, so to connect to wireless CarPlay, we want to make sure our phone's Bluetooth settings are open, and then on the interface, we just scroll to Bluetooth here, and we're going to connect to Toyota 782. Now your device might be called something slightly different. You're basically assigned some random numbers to make your Bluetooth device unique. Now make sure you hit agree to every single prompt that comes up. There's going to be 3 for CarPlay, and make sure you hit them nice and quickly. And there we have it. Wireless Apple CarPlay running at 60 frames per second. This is flawless CarPlay, guys. We know that our customers buy these for CarPlay, so our systems run CarPlay absolutely flawlessly. And there's some nice little small details in here that you won't find anywhere else, such as the Toyota logo as the back button. Our interface is seriously the best on the market. I challenge you to find any interface that's as simple as this system. We've got some basic functions in here, but we designed this thing to be easy to use. Now, if we go back into CarPlay, we can change a few settings here, like the wallpaper to make it a little more poppy, but you can sort of change things as you want. We got Waze, we got Spotify, we've got all our favorite apps here in CarPlay running at 60 frames per second and fully compatible with all of the steering wheel buttons and reverse camera. This is a fantastic unit here, guys. All right, so now that our phone is paired to wireless CarPlay, basically the car will start and wireless CarPlay will connect automatically. We'll show you that here now. we'll just turn the car's electronics off and then on again. Might have to close that door to stop the beeping. But basically the system will boot up, and then shortly after, the wireless CarPlay connection will happen automatically. This is a function we're really proud of. We know that the majority of people buy these things for CarPlay, so we made sure the connection happens automatically. Straight into wireless CarPlay again. Now the only little quirk with these units is once you've installed them, your skip track and previous track will be flipped. So now next track will be down and previous track will be up. So that's something to keep in mind. But that's the install done. Thanks very much for watching, guys. This was about a 45-minute job, and we truly believe that anyone can install these units. These N80s are really, really simple to work on, and the end result is absolutely phenomenal. We also have our successful install guarantee, guys. So if you run into any trouble during your install, we have a dedicated phone line for support, and we also have our successful install guarantee. So if you do run into any genuine problems during the install, we'll accept a return, no questions asked. Here at Get Car Tech, guys, we truly make it CarPlay the easy way. Now, today's video on YouTube was a bit of an overview. We cut out a fair few details to do with the installation to make the video nice and entertaining for you. We didn't want to bore you with too many details, but if you do buy one of our kits from getcartech.com.au, we will send you a link to a private YouTube video where we show you every single step on how to install this. We don't skip a single detail, and we guarantee that anyone, even with no experience, can install this system. Thanks again for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next one.